Good day everyone, also to you ma'am. Here's our infographic material in group 4. The topic we will discuss about Philippine Constitution. What is Constitution? A system for government of defined as written documents which continue fundamental laws and principles. The processing is necessary for the purposes of the legitimate interests pursued by the personal information controller or by the third party or parties to whom the data is disclosed, except where such interests are overridden by the fundamental rights and freedom of the people, which give protection under the Philippines Constitution. And that's all my part. And my groupmate, they will discuss about every constitution here in the Philippines.
Okay, before we continue our lesson, let me introduce myself. I am Gemasi Miklant Dieter Gasa speaking. Now let's continue and talk about the 1897 Constitution of Biak na Bato. On March 22, 1897, the Tejeros Convention took place in Cavite at San Francisco de Malabon. In this tradition, members of the Katipunan chose the first president and vice president. Emilio Aguinaldo was elected as president and Mariano Trias was chosen as vice president. The Katipunan, which served as the Constitutive Assembly, promulgated the Isabelo Artaco and Felix Ferrer Constitution. From November 1 to December 14, 1897, the Biak na Batawas Constitution, also known as the Provisional Constitution of the Philippine Republic, was in effect. Now, the 1897 Biak na Bato Constitution's preamble states that the revolution in the ongoing conflict, which started on August 24, 1896, attempted to separate the Philippines from the Spanish monarchy. After the Philippines' declaration of independence from Spain on June 12, 1898, Felipe Calderon y Roca and Felipe Cuen Camino drafted the Malolos Constitution, which was the first Republican constitution in Asia, Tucker in 2009. It was in use from January 23, 1899 to March 23, 1901. A parliamentary republic with an assembly of representatives serving as the legislative body was founded by the Malolos Constitution of 1899, which also established the people's sovereignty, a list of essential civil rights, the separation of church and state, and the people's sovereignty.
So, in continuation of the 1897 Philippine Constitution of Biak na Bato. So, it was signed on November 1, 1897. The Biak na Bato Constitution provided for the establishment of a Supreme Council that would serve as the highest governing body of the Republic. It also outlined certain basic human rights such as freedom of religion, freedom of the press, and the right to education. Emilio Aguinaldo and Mariana Trias were elected Supreme Council President and Vice President respectively. So, the 1897 Constitution of Biak na Bato states that the preamble of the 1899 Malolos Constitution lawfully convened in order to establish justice, provide for common defense, promote the general welfare, and ensure the benefits of liberty, imploring the aid of the sovereign legislator of the universe for the attainment of these ends, have voted, decreed, and sanctioned. So this 1899 Malolos Constitution now is lawfully siya to establish justice, provide for common defense, promote the general welfare, and ensure the benefits of liberty. So mao ni siya ang 1899 Malolos Constitution under the Biak na Bato Constitution. The Acts of the United States Congress was in operation from December 10, 1898 to March 24, 1934. Since the Philippines that time was a territory of the United States during these periods because of the Treaty of Paris, which transferred the sovereignty from Spain to the United States. So the acts such as the Philippine Organic Act of 1902, the Philippines Autonomy Act of 1916, and the Tidings-McDuffie Act of 1934 has passed by the United States Congress were considered as the Philippine Constitution because they provide for the fundamental political principles and establish the structure, procedures, powers, and duties of the Philippine government. Philippine Organic Act of 1902, also known as the Philippine Bill of 1902, after its author Henry Copper, was the first organic law enacted by the U.S. Congress for the Philippines. So this Organic Act or Philippine Bill provided for the creation of the Philippine Assembly and a bicameral legislature composed of Philippine Commission, Upper House, and the Philippine Assembly Lower House, where the lawmaking power was vested. So diri mao siya ang Act of Congress by the 1st of July 1902. So the Philippine Bill is an act temporarily to provide for the administration of the affairs of civil government in the Philippine island and for other purposes. So mao siya ang Philippine Organic Act of 1902 or also known as the Philippine Bill of 1902. Philippine Autonomy Act of 1916 or also known as the Jones Law amended the structure of the Philippine government that was provided for in the Philippine Bill of 1902. So Drino, the act or also known as the Jones Law, it removed the Philippine Commission, the upper house, and replaced it with the Senate whose members were elected by the Filipino voters. Because of this, the Philippine first fully elected national expression of the United States to grant the Philippines its independence as soon as a stable Philippine government would be established. So mao to siya ang Philippine Autonomy Act of 1916 or also known as the Jones Law. So mao na siya tanan no, sa 1897 Constitution of the Act na ba to. And that's all for my part. I am Hilton Second.
Hi, ma'am. I am Via Villagracia, and this is the continuation of our group discussion. Tidings-McDuffie Act. Tidings-McDuffie Act, also called Philippine Commonwealth and Independence Act in 1934. The U.S. statute that provided for Philippines independence to take effect on July 4, 1946 after a 10-year transitional period of Commonwealth government. The bill was signed by the U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt on March 24, 1934, and was sent to the Philippine Senate for approval, although that body had previously rejected the similar Hair House Cutting Act. It approved the Tidings-McDuffie Act on May 1. The act was authored in the 73rd United States Congress by Senator Millard E. Tidings of Maryland and Representative John McDuffie of Alabama, and signed into law by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. In 1934, Manuel L. Quezon, the President of the Senate of the Philippines, headed a Philippine independence mission to Washington, D.C. It successfully lobbied Congress and secured the Act passage. In 1935, under the provision of the Act, the 1935 Constitution of the Philippines was drafted and became a law, establishing the Commonwealth of the Philippines with an elected executive, the President of the Philippines. In accordance with the Act, President Harry S. Truman issued Proclamation 2695 of July 4, 1946, officially recognizing the independence of the Philippines. And the Philippines American Friendship Day is celebrated every um, July 4 to commemorate the Philippine independence from the United States of America. Um, there is a Pilipinas here in the Philippines every year. On July 4, they celebrated Independence Day or Araw ng Kalayaan.
The 1935 Philippine Constitution. This constitution was written in 1934 with the goal of meeting the United States' expectation of political maturity among Philippine leaders so that a full and real independence could be granted by the U.S. This constitution was promulgated by the 1934 Constitutional Convention and was in operation during the Commonwealth era in 1935 to 1946 until the Third Republic on July 4, 1946 to January 16, 1973. So during the Commonwealth period, the form of government was presidential system with the president serving a 6-year term without re-election. It also provided for a unicameral National Assembly. However, in 1940, an amendment was done establishing a bicameral Congress of the Philippines composed of a Senate and House of Representatives, as well as the creation of an independent electoral commission. Moreover, President's term was changed from 6 years without re-election to a 4-year term with the maximum of 2 consecutive year terms in office. So in 1971, a constitutional convention was held to rewrite or revise the 1935 Constitution. However, so much for corruption marred the process. So in 1972, President Ferdinand Marcos proclaimed martial law to suppress the increasing civil strife and the threat of communist takeover of the government. And the proclamation of martial law suspended the 1935 Constitution. So this is the preamble of the 1935 Constitution. The Filipino people imploring the aid of divine providence in order to establish a government that shall embody their ideals, conserve and develop the patrimony of the nation, promote the general welfare and secure to themselves and their posterity the blessings of an independence under a regime of justice, liberty, and democracy do ordain and promulgate this Constitution. So that's all.
The 1943 Constitution was the constitution of the Japanese-sponsored Second Republic of the Philippines. By September 7, 1943, the Constitution was concluded by the Popular Convention of the Kalibapi in Manila, and after then the Second Republic was formally declared. And in October 14, 1943, Jose P. Laurel was elected as the President by the National Assembly.
I am Alvin Alcad and I am the reporter of 1986, the Freedom Constitution. Former President Corazon P. Aquino created this proclamation, number 3, after President Marcos stepped down from his position. Since President Marcos stepped down from his position, Corazon Aquino gained the power of being the president and issued the Freedom Constitution in order to take all the power. The Freedom Constitution was issued on March 25, 1986. This constitution was intended as a transitional constitution to ensure the democracy and the freedom of the people. The Freedom Constitution provides for an ordinary transfer of power. Corazon C. Aquino created this constitution primarily to recognition of the government, restoration of the democracy, protection of basic rights, rebuilding of confidence in the entire governmental system, eradication of graft and of obturation, restoration of peace and order, authority over the military, and the transition to a government under a new constitution. Also, this constitution wanted to emphasize that the government will respect the basic human rights and fundamental freedom of individuals. So that was the 1986, the Freedom Constitution, rather.
Good day. I am Johanny Quinyo and I am discussing the 1987 Philippine Constitution. So, the present Constitution of the Philippines, which is the 1987 Philippine Constitution, approved by 1986 Constitutional Commission on October 12, 1986. The 1987 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines was presented to President Corazon C. Aquino on October 15, 1986. It was ratified on February 2, 1987 by a plebiscite. The 1987 Philippine Constitution established a representative democracy with power divided among three separate and independent branches of government, which is the executive, a bicameral legislature, and the judiciary. The purpose of this constitution is to protect and define the rights of its citizens, establish how the government should work, and outline how laws are made in order to protect those rights. The 1987 Constitution is considered one of the most enduring constitutions in the world because it has stood for 3 decades without any amendment. That's all.
Good day, everyone. I'm Carla Shin Altangog from the Group 4. What is the most important article in the Philippine Constitution? The most important article is the Article 3 of the Philippine Constitution is the Bill of Rights. It establishes the relationship of the individual to the state and defines the rights of the individual by limiting the lawful powers of the state. It is one of the most important political achievements of the Filipinos. As a constitution of liberty, it enumerates the rights of the people, mainly in the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights, which comes right after the declaration of the principles and state policies in the 1987 Constitution, is a significant part of the framework for the protection of human rights in the Philippines. So the most important rights in the Bill of Rights are the ones guaranteed by the First Amendment. They include the freedoms of religion, speech, and the press. The right of the people to assemble is also guaranteed. And that's all in my part. Thank you.
And this is the end of our discussion about Philippines Constitution. Thank you for listening. God bless.